All right. All right, welcome everyone. Yes, it is finally here. We are live on Facebook with our Generation Z Through Our Eyes. I'm so excited to have this awesome panel of illustrious future and current leaders that we're going to be speaking to this evening. My name is Jamila Hood Kirk, also known as Principal Captain Kirk. So before we get started, so no one will miss anything, if you have not already done so, go ahead and share this page because you do not want to miss the golden nuggets that will come from the mouths, I won't say of babes, because these are young adults. And when I say they are a dynamic group, they are a dynamic group. And so I cannot wait to share with you their perspective about the topics that we're going to address this evening. But before we start, I am also honored and blessed and fortunate to have a co-host this evening. So I get to share some of these golden nuggets or receive them with a special co-host this evening, Dr. Denise Stevens. Everyone give a big shout out to Dr. Denise Stevens. Put it in the chat box if you know Dr. Denise Stevens. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Stevens. Dr. Stevens was born in a small town in South Georgia to wonderful parents who taught her and her siblings the importance of hard work, determination, humbleness, and love for family and others. She's married to her best friend who she met in kindergarten, and she resides in the suburbs of Atlanta with her husband and daughter, who is a high school senior. Whoop, whoop. She has an adult son and an amazing grandson. For the past 25 years, she has served as a teacher, an assistant principal, a leadership coach, and chief financial officer, and my friend, not for 25 years, but my friend. Currently, she is an elementary principal who I have the honor of working closely with, and an adjunct professor and owner of Empowering You 24/7 LLC. Prior to becoming an educator, she was a financial accountant. She has a bachelor's degree in accounting, master's degree in specialist in education leadership, and a doctor of education leadership. She enjoys spending quality time with her family, working out, running races, remodeling, reading, writing, traveling, and enjoying nature. And although she has checked off many things on her bucket list, she is most proud of running a marathon. You all please welcome my illustrious co-host, Dr. Denise Stevens. Thank you, Dr. Denise Stevens, for joining us this evening.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Okay, so I also have some cool panel members on here. We're going to first start with Kalia Colonel. Kalia, you want to wave at everyone and let them know who you are? All right, that's Kalia. Okay, so Kalia is a senior at Clayton State University. She majors in health sciences and a minor in biology. She holds various leadership positions at Clayton State and was even awarded the Laker Vision Award for 2020. After college, she plans to get her certification in diagnostic medical sonography so that she can become a registered diagnostic medical sonographer. Please welcome Kalia Colonel. Yay! If I had a little background noise, I'll play that for you. Also next, we have the illustrious future leader, Michael Taylor White. You want to say hi, Michael? All right. Okay, Michael Taylor White is the son of Michael and Doretha White. Michael attended and graduated from Woodward Academy in May 2020. While there, he was elected Black Student Union President, Senior Class Senator, Mental Health Awareness Club Chair, Voter Registration Team Leader, Choir Tenor Section Leader, as well as a plethora of leadership opportunities. In 2019, Michael had the pleasure of being selected as an intern at Atlanta City Hall alongside the 60th Mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms. Attending thought-provoking meetings, greeting important diplomats, as well as simply running errands for one of the country's most influential leaders of today, helped mold Michael into a hard-working machine. He took the things he learned from his time at City Hall back to Woodward Academy, where he pushed for change that had never been seen at Woodward. Alongside the president of Woodward, Dr. Stuart Gully, he inspired his school administration to abolish discriminatory hair rules at his school. Now he is at the Howard University to study mass media arts as well as business, while also having a book on the way called Can I Touch Your Hair? A story of inspiring change and a message to the corporate world. When he is not writing, speaking, or studying, Michael enjoys guitar playing, filmmaking, and running. Michael resides in East Point, Georgia. Welcome, Michael Taylor White. All
Thank you for
right, next
having me.
we have
Appreciate it.
Carolyn Matthews. Carolyn, you want to say hi to everyone? All right, hello, Carolyn. Carolyn Matthews is a biology major on a pre-med track at the University of Alabama. That's a little insight between your dad and I, mom. She plans on attending medical school upon graduation and pursuing career in pediatrics. Welcome, Carolyn. Next, we have Ronald Fisher III. You want to wave, Ronald, so they know who you are? All right. Ronald Fisher III is computer engineering major, midfielder on the men's lacrosse team at the University of Michigan, member of National Society of Black Engineers. All right, Ronald Fisher, please welcome Ronald Fisher III.
Hello,
All right.
hello.
Then we have Kayla Matthews. There's Kayla. Kayla is an assertive, outgoing, and extremely hardworking Dean's List scholar at Tuskegee University, TU. She's entering her sophomore year majoring in political science. Following undergrad, she plans on attending law school and achieving her goal of becoming an intellectual property lawyer. Welcome, Kayla. Then we have Caleb King. Want to say hi, Caleb, so everyone knows who you are?
Hello.
Awesome. Caleb is a graduate of Hapeville Charter Career Academy, where he played football, becoming a 4-time region champion and state champion. He aspires to be the owner of his own restaurant chain, as he has a passion for cooking and grilling. He will be majoring in business administration in the fall. Welcome, Caleb.
Hello, hello.
All right. And then we have Kayla Smith. Hi, Kayla.
Everybody.
Kayla is a third-year student at the University of Georgia. Although she has always had a natural passion for advocacy and social justice, she's pursuing a marketing major. She's involved on campus with minority recruitment groups and the Fanning Leadership Institute. She aspires to be a business owner and a powerful community figure in the future. Boy, I feel like a proud mom, and I didn't even birth you guys. You all did some, let me say shout out to the parents out there. All right, next, DeAndre Newsome. Welcome, DeAndre. DeAndre Newsome is a third-year agribusiness scholar at the illustrious Florida Agriculture and Mechanical Engineer, also known as FAMU. He is 20 years old and is from Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Salt Lake City, Utah. DeAndre has been an active member of the FAMU chapter of Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences, where he serves as vice president. The Collegiate 100 of FAMU, where he serves as vice president of membership, and J.W. Hatchett Pre-Law Society, where he serves as president. DeAndre intends to graduate summa cum laude and then pursue graduate school, where he will be enrolling into a dual program to receive his JDMS in city and regional planning. Upon receiving his graduate degrees, he will then practice real estate law. Welcome, DeAndre. And last and certainly not least, please welcome Miguel Bibiano. Miguel is a recent graduate from Cristo Rey Jesuit High School. Got it right, Mike? I got it right, Miguel? Okay. While at Cristo Rey, Miguel served as varsity soccer team captain, student body treasurer, and completed internships with Cartoon Network, Dixon Hughes Goodman, and Cushman and Wakefield. In the fall, he will be attending the illustrious Georgia State University as a Jesuit scholar. Is that right? You all please give it up to my illustrious panel. You all have got, I hope you, I have to check out my comment. You all getting some comments in here. They're very proud, guys. Awesome. Somebody said business, FAMU. Someone said, hey, Terrell, Mike, and Dr. Stevens from Miss Anika Bryant. Greetings, panel. You young people are awesome. Greetings, looking forward to the session tonight. Thank you. All right, future doc. All right, so guys, everyone is really, really excited about seeing you guys this evening. And so we have a lot of questions to get covered. So I want to make sure we get everything covered. So first and foremost, as a reminder, I am Principal Captain Kirk, and we are focused on, this panel typically is women in leadership. And the reason why we decided to have a panel of our young Generation Z, young adults on this panel this evening is because since we've been on the pandemic and there's been a lot of civil unrest and a lot of things just happening, there's been a lot of conversations between adults. And so Dr. Stevens and I were having a conversation one evening. We thought it was really important to hear from your voices, because we've been hearing a lot from the adult voices, but we want to hear your perspective about what's going on. So we're going to be covering pretty much 3 topics this evening. And one, like we said, will be the COVID-19 and pandemic and its effect on you and your friends and your communities. Also, we'll be talking about the civil unrest and how that's impacted your family and how you plan to do your part in remedying some of the things that is happening in our community and our world. And then the third part, which is always a part, no matter what panel I have, I always like individuals to talk about self-care. And so a lot of times, of course, adults, we talk about self-care, but what that look like to a young adult, right? So there's a lot of assumptions that maybe young adults don't know what self-care is, or they don't practice self-care. And you might have some tips for some of us adults, right? Well, you are young adults, but for our older adults. So, and not only that, there might be young adults out there that you may be speaking to or maybe looking for some advice on some of these areas and how to keep some balance. Because we know it's not just about catching the virus, but there's some social emotional things that are attached to that as well. And most of you are either in college or going to college. And so we're really curious about your feelings about that. So we'll address that as well. So you guys ready? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. You ready, Dr. Stevens? All right, co-cap.
I am ready. Ready.
Okay, awesome. So our first question, again, we're gonna go in. The first question I have for you, how has the pandemic affected you personally as it relates to social distancing from friends and family members, right? So I have 5 children with 4 in my home, and I know it was quite difficult in the beginning being separated from school and friends. And I also had conversations with a lot of other students and adults whose children were having a really hard time because we're social beings, most of us, right? And so not being able to be connected to your friends can be a little challenging. So how has the pandemic affected you personally? So I'm going to go ahead and start off with Michael, since he's at the top left in my corner. And then anyone who wants to jump in after Michael, please feel free. So Michael, can you tell us again, how has the pandemic affected you personally as it relates to social distancing from friends and family members?
Well, for me personally, of course, there's been a lot of negatives, but I've seen the positive side of it as well. Being at home with my family has been eye-opening. I've been able to reconnect with my mom and my dad, and that's been really great. And I wasn't sure I was going to have the opportunity to do that before I left to go to DC. And that's a big jump coming from Atlanta to being miles and miles away in DC. And I was just glad that I had the opportunity to do that. But when it comes to my friends, it's been sad, of course, but at the same time, I've been able to reflect on a lot of the things that high school like had me involved in, and I now can look back and understand like what was good for me, what I needed to get away from, and it's shown me who I need to be around. It showed me who my real circle is, and that's something that I'm happy about.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. And I think that's the same even as adults. You do become more connected, right, with your family. And you also see those individuals who your circle of friends are, right? Those who call and check on you, those who you call and check on, and things of that nature. And even with friends and family. So that's quite interesting that that's a shared sentiment. Thank you, Michael. Anyone else want to chime in on that question? Leah, what do you think?
I'll chime in. I agree with Michael. Being home has been, at first I thought it was boring, but when I got to spend time with my family and we all eat dinner together, we eat breakfast together, we talk about different things, it just brings us closer. And I feel like that is very important in a family, because when you think about it, before the virus happened, we were all busy. Everyone had to work or go to school, so we didn't really spend time with each other. And now we have that time to spend. And as far as my friends, at first I was missing my friends and we were on FaceTime all the time. We still are. But being away from my friends actually, and especially with me being a graduating senior, it allowed me to sit down and manifest what I want to see happen in my life. So I was able to write down dates that I wanted to see come true, write down goals for what I want to do after graduation, study for tests such as the GRE. I actually I did 2 internships this summer, and I was supposed to be in Paris, but the virus happened. But I was able to really focus on me. And sometimes when you're out with your friends all the time, you don't really focus on you and what you want to see happen in your own personal life. So it has been, the virus itself seemed negative, but it has been some very positive things to come out of this.
And that's a good point you made. You know, early on, despite the challenges and everything that's going on, that is a very plus. And Dr. Stevens and I have talked about this as well, that the time with family, because even as administrators, we spend so much time in schools with other families and children. So we really got time to spend time with our own children and grandchildren and so forth. If that, and would you agree, Dr. Stevens?
Yes, Principal Captain Kirk, I noticed that as I listened to Michael and as I listened to Kayla, both of them immediately when they started talking about the time with their family. And so that alone has just made a major difference in where we are as individuals. And just to hear Generation Z talk about how much you value your families, that is amazing. I heard Michael mention mom, and then I heard Kayla just talking about how she was able to spend time with herself. We know in that age group, you guys enjoy friends, but just to hear that, it is amazing. So I'm just excited about the rest of
especially
our
having
conversation.
a young man with especially a young man with the mom that touches a heart. And then Kalia, I like the fact that you also write down. That was something I thought was really important, that you wrote down your goals. And that's, even as adults, sometimes we forget to do that. So we can reflect, but you, like you said, in order to make some movement, put action to it, you wrote the goals down. So I thought that's a really good strategy to think about if you're a young adult out there, or anyone that's trying to reflect and to write down what those goals are. Rashana Radiant says, I always say blessings and lessons in the test, right? So that's pretty true. And then Trina Gardner Reese says, I love that. My own children missed that opportunity to connect with their parents until they became parents. Your relationships will grow deeper because of this. Yeah. So that's kudos to you. Anyone else want to chime in on that question? Hey, Terrell, go ahead. Okay, Terrell, then Kayla.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I've definitely found that I'm doing a lot more activities with my parents and my sister that I wasn't really doing before. We've carved out different times where we'll just watch Family Feud. I know that's kind of corny, but Family Feud every night at like 7, and we literally watch it for hours. And I don't think that if we had have been doing other things, we would have carved out this time. So it's definitely allowed us to like grow with each other and start seeing like, wow, like, there's a lot of things that we could have been doing with each other, but it took a pandemic for us to see that. So although it's been a lot of negatives, it's actually been a lot of positives, because I've definitely learned a lot about my family that even though I've known them for 19 years, that I didn't know until all of this happened. So
awesome.
Absolutely. And that's the case even for us. There's things as an adult, as parents, we learn more about our children. And even if you have spouses, that you learn about each other, whether they were good or whether that was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you had that you did that, you know. So, and even from our own children, like, wait a minute, you know. So I mean, it's been a really good experience just with everything all around. The only thing, of course, is missing other family members. Caleb, what were you gonna say?
I think that even though the virus kind of ended my school year, canceled my graduation and prom, I still feel like it's some light to it. Because before the virus took place, I was kind of discouraged to go to college because being a football player and then my height and size, so I'm 5'5", so it's kind of harder for me to get an opportunity to play at a university or college somewhere. So I was discouraged, but it really took a lot. I was like, well, since I'm just focusing on me right now, I think it's time for me to actually find somewhere and buckle down to go. So I was able to figure out where I wanted to go to school. And I found out, I really felt that Gordon was that way. I was able to talk to the coaches, the staff, and they really brought me in with loving arms. And I felt like it was home.
That's awesome. And I appreciate you being transparent about that, you know, being bummed and then, you know, because I've talked to other athletes, especially if this is their senior year, or even, going into the senior year and worried about whether or not they'll get to play because they're looking for that scholarship. So I can imagine, because I guess during the year, you pretty much know at this point, at the end of the year, whether or not you're going to college, you're getting up. But if it's going to your senior year and it's going to be, you may not have opportunity to play. I've talked to some athletes that are kind of bummed about that because they're like, how will I get seen, right? So do you have that? Have you had that experience or talked to some of your teammates who might be rising seniors? Are they kind of feeling that way?
Yes, I have some of my teammates. They feel like, oh man, I'm not really getting looks. I don't know where I'm gonna go. I'm like, well, you can't really look at it like that. You gotta keep going, keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing to make yourself better as a better player, and focus on you. So it's not, am I getting looks? It's more so, what am I doing to make myself a better player and a better person?
Absolutely. Great job, Caleb. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead, DeAndre. And then DeAndre and then Miguel.
Yes, I just wanted to say Tara Lynn hit it on the head, to where you kind of find out new things about your family. So COVID hit in about March. It kind of affected the actual school system in March. So I actually stayed in Tallahassee, having an off-campus apartment out there until late May. I wanted to finish out school, but when school ended, unfortunately, COVID-19 impacted some of my family members back home. So from that regard, I wasn't able to travel back home. And then on top of that, someone else in my family, actually, my great uncle, had got impacted with COVID-19 in Tallahassee. So I was kind of secluded. But the good thing about it was that they were fortunate enough to beat it. So my mom has a certain medical history with lupus, and my great uncle was just old age. So those are two people on the spectrum that said they most likely wouldn't make it. So the fact that they were actually able to make it, made it through, and they're healthy now, kind of showed, it kind of just taught me again, like the history of like the resilience that runs within my family. And it kind of just added a little bit more to my why. And I told myself I have to be more resilient throughout college, just because of that. So on top of that too, like just during COVID, it was a good time to pick up hobbies. So reading more, and it's even time to look into some skills. So recently I've been looking into getting a sewing kit and learning how to just like hem and taper, and just adjust certain clothings for my suits or whatnot, because that's big on campus, being a business student. So.
Yes, I heard. That's awesome. I particularly love the fact that you found and identified the resilience in your family, right? That's something Dr. Stevens and I, we love. We pray that our students recognize those types of things in school.
And also, Principal Captain Kirk, he indicated the fact that he was able to find that hobby as well. I believe during this time, a lot of us have tapped into some of those hobbies that we have and didn't even realize they were there. So we'll have that opportunity to speak on that as well. So thank you for sharing that about the hobby. Thank you.
Thank you, DeAndre. Miguel?
Yes, I like to relate to Caleb, what he was saying, being a student athlete, and then this pandemic hitting us. I feel like at first I thought about it as something negative. We didn't have senior season, we didn't have senior night, our prom was canceled and all that, and it was a bummer, as like your friends were like, oh, I feel bad for you and this. But later on you realize like the things that you didn't do before you do now, like spending time more with your family. So I take great advantage of that, and it just brings us more together, and your friends understand, like you guys get to do what you guys like most with your family.
That's awesome. Definitely spending time, and that's a true emotion. I think sometimes it's okay, or people need to know it's okay to feel that emotion. To be bummed about something. I think the important thing is that although you might have been discouraged at the beginning, you end up finding the light and understanding the positive. I think that's the biggest, one of the biggest takeaways is that people can find some light and some comfort in knowing that there's some positive things. Yes, there's a lot of things. We can go down a list of things of how it affected us negatively. But the fact that your mindsets, all of you, your mindsets are positive mindsets, and turning that into something positive, there's a lot about you, a lot about your upbringing and just your own resilience as well. So kudos to you guys. So Dr. Stevens has another question for you guys.
Actually, we were going to talk about how it has impacted you with your friends, and you guys actually alluded to that. So what I want to ask now, and someone mentioned about college and those things like that, tell us specifically, what was it? How do you feel that the school closing was handled? We realized that some people found out on the news, some received text messages and those things like that. Talk to us about how the school closings were handled and your reaction to that. I know various people have various experiences. So share with us when you found out that information and how you feel about the school closing and the way it was handled.
I'll go. I found out school was closed. I was actually on spring break, and our plans were that we were going to return back to school, go back to normal. But we found out that instead of going back to normal, we would have to move out. So that was kind of shocking for me. Like the transition from learning in person, going to class, going fully online was pretty difficult for students and for professors in general. A lot of professors who have never maybe taught online or are not as savvy were now having to struggle and do different things to figure out like how to teach online. Teaching online versus in person like has different strategies. So I mean, it was kind of tough for me since I've never taken an online class, and like that transition was just kind of difficult. But I do think that like the schools did the best that they could under the circumstances, and everybody had to adjust, the schools, the students, the parents, and the teachers.
For me,
That's interesting because we found ourselves.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I found out that school was canceled literally after we played Marquette, and it was like that night, and everything was canceled. And then my mom hurried me home back to Texas. But like Kayla was saying, like learning online is completely different from in lectures. And it's almost like you have to make a new plan on how to study and what to focus on. So for me, it actually somewhat benefited me because I could access my professors on like online office hours, and it wouldn't conflict with practice times or be like a long journey on campus or whatever. So it was a little bit easier just in that aspect.
Awesome.
So you felt like your professors were more accessible because you wouldn't have to worry about until getting to class, or you had them right then.
Yeah, I could just click a button and they're right there.
And that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And it's also a good point, Kayla, about the transition for professors, because we also saw that even in our schools with teachers who weren't typically used to using technology in the classroom had to transition now to doing that virtually. And like you said, you made a really good point that the strategies that you use face to face are totally different from the strategies that you use online. And not only that, your study habits, right? Like you both said, studying online is different from studying face to face. And I'm sure that was really difficult for you guys to adjust, especially when you're used to studying, a certain way. Now you're having to really pivot and do that real quick.
Also, there was changes that had to take place as far as the professors were concerned as well. Kayla, we're glad that you said that part about making the adjustment. Not only was it an adjustment for college students, but as a college professor, it is a major adjustment. So therefore, what the course consisted of normally face-to-face, it had to be changed and altered. So excellent point.
Right. I agree with both of them. For me, it was very difficult managing my time, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't get too comfortable in my own space, like being in my, being in my house. So I had to make sure that I stayed on the routine that I was on when I was at school, waking up. If I had a certain time that I went to go eat, I tried to eat at that time, go to bed at the same time, just do everything the same as I did when I was on campus.
Wow.
Awesome. That's a good strategy, Kayla. So you kept your same schedule so that you wouldn't be thrown off too much. That's a good strategy. And so if there's college students out there or students who will be attending college and you're going to be virtual, or, or even if you're not, that's a good important strategy, is try to keep the same schedule. And that's what we even try to do as principals in our schools. We try to, we knew it was a difference, but we wanted to keep a schedule so that students could stay on some type of track. And then also parents had an opportunity to have some consistency in their home. So that's, it's interesting to see the parallel between the college life and then still in school.
Let's talk about reopening, Principal Kirk.
Yeah, go ahead.
We know that with the reopening, of course, in the school system, at the elementary, middle, and high school, we realized that some of the districts are deciding to go virtual. So based on where you guys are headed, talk with us and share with us some of the formats that will be taking place at the colleges where you're getting ready to attend.
I can speak on behalf of Clayton State. It changes every week. We get an email every week about how it's going to be completely different. They want to make us wear mask mandatory, which is perfectly fine with me. They have some rule to where it's like first come, first serve coming to class. So if you don't make it to class or have a seat, then you will have to do your work out in the lobby. It changes so much. I can't even keep up, honestly. I just feel like we're all confused on how we're gonna go back. I heard one of my friends have an outside class, which is still like, to me personally, I just feel like we should have went back virtually this semester as well, because the cases are rising. I have friends who actually contracted COVID, so it's very confusing to me. That's all I can say.
I can imagine. So when you say outside, you mean like they're physically outside?
Yes, with a blanket.
Oh, okay. So when it rains, you don't know. You're just saying. Okay, I got you.
You might be
That's
inside when it rains.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Anyone else? What are your schools? Anybody else? Schools have communicated the reopening plans, or yes, DeAndre?
Yes, my school has communicated it. So we're gonna start normal time, August 24th, right around there. That's when we normally start. And then after Thanksgiving, because that's usually around like flu season, we're gonna go back virtual. But from when August until the end of August until Thanksgiving, it's kind of a hybrid setup. So freshmen got on-campus priority for on-campus living. When it comes to all the resident halls, it's one person to a room to practice social distancing. Masks are mandatory in class. And then when it comes to in-person instruction, for the most part, freshmen got priority, and then also people with like labs and grad student classes and whatnot. So for me, I'm in a position of where I don't have any labs really, so all my classes are remote, but I'm still heavily involved on campus. I still need to be on campus. But I will say, like FAMU, they've done a pretty good job of still like understanding that like the freshman is kind of priority. So they're trying to give them the best experience possible, but still trying to make sure that they accommodate other students as well. I will say right now, the only discrepancy that I would have with it is the out of state fees for out of state students. So I'm an out of state student. Unfortunately, I don't have any fees to pay because I have an out of state fee waiver. But I know of out of state students that are not on out of state fee waivers or on scholarship, and all of their classes are remote, so they won't be able to reap the benefits of the on-campus fees or other out-of-state fees that they'll be able to take advantage of if they were on campus. So I know that's a huge discrepancy right now.
Oh, so in other words, I'm paying out-of-state fees still for being virtual.
Yes, you're pretty much paying out-of-state fees to do your work from home.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I bet that is a discrepancy. Yes, Terrellyn? Oh, Caleb, wait a minute, Terrellyn, Caleb first and then you, Terrellyn.
Sorry.
That's
Got
okay,
it.
Caleb. That's okay. Caleb, were you trying? Okay, then you tell.
I think my school is offering in class and virtual learning, but well, I've fully figured which one it is. I have a Zoom call next weekend for and then they'll break it down further. New student orientation, so we'll figure out what we're doing. I think they're prioritizing freshmen as well, like he said with FAMU. So yeah.
Okay. I have heard about a lot of different colleges are prioritizing graduates and freshmen. Okay. Terrellyn?
My school has said that we're going to be doing hybrid learning. So I'll meet for half of my classes on Tuesday and Thursday, and the rest of the days it'll be all online. And we're required to wear masks during class. So I'm guessing that's why they're allowing us to do both virtual and in person, but I'm not really sure how the seating is going to work because for a lot of the upper level courses, it's 200 kids in the class. So they haven't really fully told us how they're going to work out those kinks, but we are required to get a COVID testing before we can move back on campus. So I guess that's going to be their way of weaving out those students that have COVID and need to go full virtual versus those that can go in person.
Interesting.
That is interesting. So how do they determine who gets to go to class on Monday, Wednesday versus Tuesday, Thursday? Do you know?
Well, the classes are set up where the class only meets in person on Tuesday and Thursday. So they've reduced class sizes. So some kids have gotten removed out of classes to make room to where the numbers are smaller.
Okay. So if it's 200 in a class, then 100 will go on one day and 100 go on the other day.
Correct.
Okay. I got you. I think I'm following you. All right. Let's see. Sounds like a plan, they say. Okay. Anyone else want to address that question before we move on? All right, so here's the next question. What is your view on this current civil unrest and how it has impacted you? What type of impact would you like to have on the future, right? So we started off with COVID, and I would like to say, well, someone would argue that all of a sudden we ran into the civil unrest, but I would argue that we've been in a civil unrest, right? It's just that some events occurred during the time that everyone was sitting still and being reflective, and we weren't distracted. And then we were able to see more because we didn't have all the distractions in the world, right? But that's a whole nother show. But what is your view on the current civil unrest, and how has it impacted your lives or your communities or your homes? And what are your thoughts about it? Who wants to start? Do I need to call on someone? Go ahead, DeAndre.
Yes.
And then Michael.
Oh, yes, I would agree with you. First and foremost, when you say, the things that we're facing now, we've kind of been, facing for 400 years. And it's kind of unfortunate because, whether our people are responding to the police the right way or not responding to police the right way, at the end of the day, like, the ball isn't in our court to decide what happens. A lot of the times the police and whatnot already have in their mind, like, made up what they're gonna do. So that's like the tragic part of it. But I would say the positive side of it has been that it's kind of showed me how determined my generation is, and how unapologetic they are. Like, no matter what's going on, they're still gonna kind of like continue to fight no matter what. No matter what acts they do, they're still gonna try and stand up in some ways. And I've even seen like a positive change happening economically as well. So a lot of my peers are, coming up with more Black businesses, and they're sharing those things more, and pretty doing good in the right way economically, supporting Black businesses, also with signing petitions, trying to get laws passed, understanding that there are more important things, and than just kind of just being loud. So I will say that's one of the good parts of it. What type of impact would I like to have on my future? Of course, I would like to have a positive impact. I'm going into the legal field, so that's going to be my profession. So I want to do as much good as I can possible in the legal profession, and as well, I plan on getting into consulting. And I'm Generation Z, so I plan on doing consulting for specifically people within my generation. So I'm currently doing research on just Generation Z and kind of talking to my peers and putting out surveys, just to get a better feel of my generation as well. So once I actually am able to get into consulting, then I can help the best way possible.
I love that. I love that reaching back, DeAndre. I love that you are surveying your future clients, if you will, right? So you'll know what those needs are. I think that's really important, so that you're really hitting the mark and you're understanding what those needs are. So I like that.
And also, Principal Captain Kirk, did you hear him say about talking about this generation is unapologetic? And that's the part
Mhm.
that is so amazing, because I've noticed that when you guys get something in your mind, you already see the end result and you are determined. I think I heard someone earlier, I think it was you, Caleb, that talked about the resiliency. That is amazing, because
Mhm.
that is something that a lot of baby boomers admire that in you guys. That's Generation Z.
Right. That's what it used to be, right? We need that. And my dad says it all the time that, the only difference between now and then is that we have social media.
Yes.
So back then they didn't have social media to have a highlight and shed a light on everything that was happening. So it's not too much different. It's just that we get to see it all, and that's the unfortunate part. And so it makes you reflect on what your parents went through or your grandparents during those times. And the power of social media and the power of a voice, the power of action. So just keeping all those things in mind. Michael, you were going to add something as well.
Yeah, for me personally, like I had stated earlier, this whole situation has been really eye-opening. I personally have just been really disappointed in the fact that it took this long for people to actually get up in arms about the things that have been going on, because they've been going on since before I was born, since before my parents were born, and it's just ridiculous that it took this long. And I've been like the first protest that had happened in Atlanta, I was there. Me and my dad went. We marched to the state capitol, and all the while, like while I was thinking there, I've been to a few protests, but while I was there, while I was marching, while I was chanting and things like that, I started to realize like, wow, I really don't want to be here. And not because like I'm lazy and I don't feel like being in the protest. I thought to myself, I shouldn't have to be here. None of us should have to protest to be treated equally as the rest of our counterparts. And it just makes you really angry. And that's been my reality. I've been angry all the while, like for a long time, ever since I guess I was like 10 years old, and I started to start understanding what it was, like what the world was that we lived in. But it just made me so much more angry to see all these companies finally start to recognize like, oh yeah, this is bad, and we shouldn't allow this type of stuff to happen. And yeah, it's been really eye-opening. And when it comes to impact, that's why I decided to write my book, Can I Touch Your Hair? I've noticed that a lot of people just are uneducated on a lot of different topics. And when it comes to white supremacy isn't just police brutality, as we all know. It's deeply rooted in many constructs in America, and hair discrimination is one of them. So hair discrimination has been a little bit of my area of expertise. So that was what I decided I wanted to contribute to this movement. So that's why I decided like, yeah, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna crank out this book that will get people to understand at least this aspect of systemic racism. And yeah, so that's about it.
So what I like most about a couple things. I mean, it's a lot of things, but I'll just a couple of things. First of all, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing, about that anger, right? Because not a lot of people will admit that. But I think the difference between you and some others is that you turn that around. You're using that anger to fuel action, right? So whether it be through your advocacy, whether it be through things, as much as you didn't want to be there, you still did there to represent, to go to protest. But then you're also writing the book, right? And I'm sure, having a son who's going to be a senior who decided 2 years ago he wanted locks. I had to have that conversation with him about what that may mean. It wasn't just like, okay, cool, go ahead and get it. We had a conversation about who was going to do it, how it had to look, what it meant to have it. There's a responsibility to it. You can't just wear a certain hairstyle and think, okay. Now, unfortunately, it shouldn't be that way, but it is that way. And the fact that he's an African-American male and he will soon be out of my household in a year, where his dad and I will not be there to be in his ear, it's my responsibility to pour into him as much as I can and get him to understand what it means, to wear those locks. And first of all, it wasn't just it was why do you want the locks? be clear about what that is, because there's people all over the country who are fighting for rights, or they're getting kicked out of school because they can't wear. What are you going to do if you're faced with that in your school? So I appreciate that. And we know that locks are just not just, or even hair or hairstyles are not just for the older or for us. We have younger children that go to school with different hairstyles and different, especially young men or boys. So I appreciate you putting action behind the anger. I think that's what makes a big difference too. You were gonna say something, Dr. Stevens?
Principal, yes, follow-up question for Michael. Michael, you talked about hair discrimination. My question to you is, did you just start thinking about hair discrimination in the middle of the pandemic, or share the experience? What happened to generate that thought process for you?
Great question. And I was gonna touch on that, and I just forgot to. Personally, I have experimented with a lot of different hairstyles, braids, twists, things like that. But what really, there were a lot of different catalysts that made me start thinking about hair discrimination. And one of the main ones was me being at Woodward, which, if you don't know Woodward, it's a private school that is in the deep South. Of course, we're in Georgia. It has a pretty interesting history. It started off as a military school, of course, white only. It was it was brought about in the year 1900, and it has a lot of racial undertones that were disappointing and very upsetting. One of which being the discriminatory hair policies that Woodward allowed to just stay until the year 2020. And I'm a student ambassador, or I was a student ambassador on campus. So I would give tours to kids who were trying to come into the school and things like that, and to their parents. And one of the things that always rubbed me the wrong way was the fact that I would give these tours to these Black boys with locks, with braids, with twists. And I'd have a smile on my face, like showing them around the school, talking to them about all of these different things. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, geez, you're gonna have to cut that off. You're not gonna be able to come here unless you take, and it's like, and that was just really upsetting. And of course there was a bunch of different things that made me want to write a book and made me want to like get rid of the discriminatory hair policies. But that was one that really just hurt, just because me personally, I love the school that I graduated from, and the connections that I got from it, the education I got from it is wonderful. And it just made me disappointed to know that there were kids who look like me who could have an education like this and could be exposed to the same things that I was exposed to, but what's setting them back is their hair. It just doesn't make sense. So I was like, I really need to sit down with the president of our school. I need to put this in words. I need to make presentations. I need to explain to people why this is just utterly ridiculous that it's 2020 and we're still talking about hair.
Thank you for sharing that. That took a lot of boldness. Thank you.
Yeah.
And one more thing, sorry, I forgot. And that takes me back to me being angry about having people take so long to start saying things. Because one of the things about my school was that I had to personally call out my school about a lot of different things on social media, on Instagram. And it got more traffic than I was expecting. It got a lot of shares, a lot of likes, a lot of comments from a lot of people in our community. And throughout a chain of events, it ended up inspiring one of my friends to make, I don't know if you all saw on the news, but a lot of Atlanta private schools were making Black at Woodward, Black at Paideia, Black at Westminster, to like tell the stories of discrimination and things like that, like on Instagram. And that's what got administrators to start actually apologizing and say, we're going to try to do better and things like that. And yeah, that was just something that shouldn't have taken this long. So.
Well, you have a couple comments, Michael. Thank you, Michael, for speaking up and fighting for change. Thanks, Michael White, for your courage. So you have a couple comments on there.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. I think Kayla wants to say something, and then if I can get Miguel to chime in.
Yeah, I totally agree with Michael about the feelings that he had at the protest. I was actually at the first protest that day downtown too, and a lot of the police officers were like giving this sentiment that they didn't want to be there. They were saying they didn't want to be there. And I got really upset too. And I said, do you think that we want to be here? We shouldn't have to be doing this. So I felt the exact same way. And I'm glad that this is happening. And just like you said, since the world kind of had to come to a stop, these things have been happening, and it got so normalized and we got so used to seeing it that it began to get like pushed underneath the rug. So I'm glad that it's gaining global, worldwide attention right now. And as far as impact, I actually was lucky enough to organized my own protest, and we marched to the Georgia Post, and we got to talk to the director and have a private meeting with him and get his information. And if you don't know, the Georgia Post, that's where they certify police officers in Georgia. That's where they come up with the certification, is where they do the screening. So we actually marched there, and a good group of us, and we got to have a private meeting. So that was really great for me.
Wow, you guys are movers and shakers with so much boldness.
That's
Amazing.
awesome.
Yes.
Miguel? Thank you, Kayla, for sharing that.
Yes.
And you're
Yes.
right.
Awesome,
We've been, this has been going on.
Yes.
So similar to Michael, the same thing happened at my school. There's also some students that opened accounts that said Black at Cristo Rey. And it was also a similar experience where one of my classmates, she decided that she wanted locks. And my school has a corporate work study program where we go to work, and some of the administrators and like the people in charge of the school thought that her hair was unprofessional. So it wasn't until a group of students and all of us got together and we stood up for her with her that they decided to not get her in trouble for it. So I feel like we have experienced similar thing at private schools. It was very disappointing. It felt like the students were fighting with the teachers and stuff, but it was like the students didn't see it as that. They saw it as something that it's just not, like, you can't tell somebody how they want their hair and this and that. So the students really had an issue with that, and they stood up for each other, with each other. And since then there have been other meetings and stuff with the student government and administration at school, where we have got together and talked about things we can do for the teachers to understand our students' culture and ethnicity and where they come from. So we hope to accomplish that and for things to get better for our future generations at our school.
Wow.
You know what I like about you all, thank you, Miguel, is that the fact that you all look out for each other, that you understand advocacy and speaking for others on behalf of others, because sometimes we can get absorbed into our own worlds. And that's why I really appreciate about all of your stories, is that you understand that it's not just about you, that you're looking at the generation behind you, right? Or those that are walking with you. And so I can really appreciate that. So I appreciate you all and your strength and your courage. It really takes a lot of courage to do those things that you all are doing, especially when you are in the face of other adults, right? Because you always have that fear, I'm going to be retaliated, you know, how I have to still come to the school. Michael, you have to put things out on social media against your school, how that impact you. And hopefully your teachers and other, you know, staff members were supportive, because that's one thing as an administrator. I know Dr. Stevens as well probably feels this way, that that's one of our greatest, that's what our goal is. You are what we want. Like, if we can educate our students to be those young adults where they understand that change has to happen and start with them, then you know, we've done our job. Would you not say, Dr. Stevens? I mean, it's just one of those things that we really, you know, we really thrive on. So Kayla, couple comments for you. Thanks, Kayla, for being a wonderful young leader, from Rochelle Harris. The future is bright. Rashana Radiant says, Melanie Connor says, young lady, clap, clap, clap. And then also Melanie Connor says, this generation is on the cutting edge of what the world needs right now. One day we will follow you all as you are most worthy to follow. Salute. So you all have some fans out here. So great job, guys. Anyone else want to share? Let me get Ronald. I know you have to leave. You have a lacrosse meeting.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add before you have to get out of here?
I just want to say thanks for inviting me. You know, it's I'm going to continue helping people educate themselves on this issue and, you know, progress for a better country and a better lives for other African Americans.
All right. Thank you, Ronald.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, Kalia.
I just wanted to touch on the unrest as far as the protesting, I know I didn't get a chance to actually physically protest, but I did have the chance to work hand in hand with my city council members, and we took a different approach as far as civil unrest and racism, and we wanted to kind of tackle the school systems. So we started coming up with initiatives for police being in the schools. How can we build that bridge for students and faculty to trust the police officers that are in the school? And we also wanted to target our second and third graders as far as education, so that we can kind of put them on the right track, because one thing that I hear a lot is I want to say it's called the school to prison pipeline. So we kind of wanted to tackle that. So I just wanted to show other people that it's different ways to actually put your hand in the pot when it comes to protesting, civil unrest, and things like that. You can get involved in different ways.
That's a good point. And so if you were not able to go down to the hotel, there are different ways. You can write to your elected officials. You can participate in things that are in your community. You can give back to your community. So that is something important. You don't have to feel bad because you couldn't do one thing or do another way. The main thing is to just have action, right? To be intentional about how you're going to do and think it through. You don't want to do just because someone else is doing it or your friends or family. Know your why. Like someone said earlier, I knew what my why was. And so know what your why is, and that will certainly guide you. We only have a few more minutes. So Dr. Stevens, are you still there or are you frozen? I think Dr. Stevens is frozen. So I'm going to go ahead and ask another question for one thing, voting. One of the questions Dr. Stevens was going to ask you guys, what role do you believe voting plays in stimulating change? How many of you, all of you are old enough to vote this year, right? All of you are at least 18. Okay. So what are you most looking forward to about, with exercising your right to vote?
Being able to actually pick our community leaders, who we want in office. So I think it's a big decision. It really falls on us. You can't really sit there and say, oh, dang, why are they in office? Because you didn't vote. So I think our voice counts as much as anybody else's. So it's a big mark, and I think we need to vote.
Definitely.
So what would you all say? Go ahead. Who's gonna say? Kayla, go ahead.
Yes. I definitely agree with what Caleb said. If you want the change, you have to be the change that you want to see. So that involves going out voting, making sure that you're picking the right elected officials to, do what you need done in the community as well as our country.
Awesome. Anyone? Kayla? And
Yeah.
then Terrellyn.
I think that voting is definitely important, but we can't, in my opinion, discuss voting and not talk about things like voter suppression that we have experienced here in Georgia, because it's a real thing. Even last year with the governor election, I remember I had to register multiple times to vote because my registration kept getting deleted. And I think that that's also an issue that we as the young generation and the older generation have to start shedding light to. That's a real issue that's affecting our communities and not making voting as effective as it could and should be.
Right. So, there's, we can't just look at the numbers and say, well, we didn't have a lot of people that voted, because it may be that there was voter suppression in that area. And you're right, because even with these midterm elections, it was even in Georgia, we still had the same. You would think by now we've addressed this issue, but we still had the long lines. We still had people who registered, but it wasn't shown that they were registered. So you're right. We have to hold the politicians accountable, right, for making sure that they are putting that at the top of their agenda to eliminate that, so that we eliminate that barrier. Because my son, it dawned on me recently that he will be 18 by the time voting comes around this year, and so I want to make sure that he will be able to exercise his right to vote. So you're exactly right. Terrellyn?
I just wanted to say that it's important to also encourage our other peers that can you hear me?
Yes, I think it's
Okay.
this is raining, so it might be a
Okay, sorry, you cut out a
little
little
sticky.
bit.
Mhm.
Okay, I was just saying that it's important to also encourage our other peers, because while we're all aware, some people feel, oh, I'm not going to stand in the lines, or oh, my vote doesn't really count. And I hate to hear when younger people say my vote doesn't count, because that's what discourages, that's what gets these large numbers of people that haven't voted, and that's what doesn't help with change. So it's important to just continue to advocate and to not let long lines or anything like that discourage us, because that's ultimately what ends up making us have the same leaders over and over that don't really support the change that's needed. So it's important to just continue to like advocate, stand in the lines. If it's 3 hours, get a group of your friends, you can have a conversation for 3 hours through that whole line, and just push for them to go out there and everyone around you.
That's a good point. Good strategy. Don't give up, because again, these aren't new tactics, right? These are old. And one of the things that we, I have a series coming up this month called Sankofa, and it's an old African, it's a bird, but the idea is that you must look back in order to move forward. And I'm sure one of the things that we have to be more diligent about is talking to our elders while they're still here, and to find out from them what were some strategies. I mean, I understand that we have a new times and there's new ways and there's time for that, but they also have a lot of knowledge to share with us, right? About how they dealt with some of those things. And so that we can compare our strategies with theirs, because if ours is not being effective, what can we pull from their experiences as well? So that's something we definitely have to, really look at. Okay. Who else? Who have we haven't heard from? DeAndre, we hadn't heard from you a second. You want to share? What are your thoughts?
Yes. Kayla, I would say Kayla hit it on the head.
Yeah, I can
You
hear
on
it.
here?
Can you hear me?
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the rain is coming through, so it's just like Dr. Stevens keeps getting frozen. So I do have a question, because I had a couple more questions. Oh, DeAndre, go ahead. So can you hear me now? I didn't know if you could hear me the first time.
I just want to go ahead and say, just like Kayla really hit it on the head, about we can't talk about voting unless we talk about voter suppression. But on top of that as well, I just will say, like, these things have been going on for a really long time, and we kind of just have to continue to like stay resilient, you know, kind of fight these negatives that are going on, and get, like I said, continue to stay resilient, because these things have been going on for a long time. So, kind of becoming passive, and losing hope isn't the way to go. That's kind of what they want. That's what they expect out of us. So, continue to having that grit and educating ourselves and seeking knowledge and seeking the truth that's going to benefit our people is what's needed right now.
Awesome. We have a couple comments going to read. I know Ronald's gone. We have one comment from Chiquita Collins Fisher. Thanks, Ronald. Engagement, education, and awareness are critically important to influence progress. Rashana Radiant, absolutely. There are different ways. Find your lane. Melanie Connor, I am so impressed by these young people as their voices matter. Literally the leaders for future generations. Mac Lance, please focus on local politics, judges, prosecutors, congressmen. That's true, because a lot of times we only focus on the presidential election, and those midterms, those local politicians, you've got to start locally, because that it moves all the way to the top, right? So make sure that you're focusing on that. Great job, Mac Lance. Rochelle Harris, absolutely important to vote and take action. Chiquita Collins Fisher, serve on the board of elections, become judges, policymakers, and politicians must be in decision-making positions to impact change. Melanie Connor, she has a question. I'd like to hear your opinions on schools starting back virtually in the midst of a pandemic, if possible. Oh, we kind of covered it, Ms. Connor. What can we do to make it most engaging and equitable for all? Okay, so let's put yourself, if you were a student, give me one simple liner. If you were to talk to your school principal or teachers, what would you say to us that you would want us to do to make sure that it was engaging and equitable for all students?
I think for me, I would say, can we implement virtual experiments or virtual reality almost, so that for your visual learners like myself, we can see it but also participate, if that makes sense.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Because obviously one of the things, we have different types of learning styles. And if you're a tactile learner, you may or may not experience that now virtually, right? Because you don't have the manipulatives, you can't touch and feel the laps and things of that nature. So we really have to be aware as educators, as your teachers, as to how you best learn and figure out how to bring that through a computer. Is that essentially you're saying, Kalia?
Yes,
And
like
then
virtual experiment.
on visuals, experiments, and make more projects, perhaps project-based learning where you all are creating things and then creative side. Gotcha. All
Yeah.
right. DeAndre, thank you, Kalia. DeAndre?
Principal
Yes.
Captain Kurt, can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes.
Just want to let you guys know I'm having technical difficulty. It
We
is
got you.
storming in my area, and I
We got
noticed
you.
that happened to several panels. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, DeAndre.
Yes, Kalia hit on the head as well, but I will add to that. Kind of make it intuitive enough. And when I say that, I mean I kind of have options. So when it comes to just like remote teaching or remote lecturing, some students, they might not learn the best if you're just staring at a screen the whole time. And on top of that too, pretty sure a lot of people in college know this, but classes are just for lecture. A lot of the learning that you do is outside of the class. So you're essentially teaching yourself. So having different roles to teach yourself and, different ways of learning other than just sitting in and sitting in front of the computer for that period of time on that day will be beneficial.
That's a good idea. Thank you, DeAndre. Okay. All right, Dr. Stevens, we're going to go to the last question. We'll jump to the last question if you want to go ahead and pose that to the panels, and then we'll close out.
Absolutely. What self-care strategies have worked for you as a young adult? And tell us how you're implementing those strategies.
All right, Kayla.
Okay, I would definitely have to say being able to keep a certain routine has helped me a lot. Staying positive through everything that we're going through, knowing that we'll be able to get through it. Taking time out for yourself is very, very important. With everything that's going on, sometimes you have to turn off the news, you have to get off social media and just reflect on yourself and learn more about yourself through times like this.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla.
DeAndre? Good strategy.
No, I just had a brain fart, so somebody can go.
I'll go.
Who's talking? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out who's talking.
Okay.
I'll go. One thing that I do is called Self-Care Sunday. Fancy name, but pretty much I block out from everything. So I block out from social media, I block out from the type of music that I listen to. I listen to podcasts, I read books, I write down my goals and my manifestation dates. I just take that day to make myself feel good. I might do my nails, do my toes since we can't go to the nail salon. Or watch Fresh Prince because that's my favorite. But that day and watch church. I didn't say that, but watch church at 12. But that day is specifically for me to focus on me. I don't want to think about school or my leadership positions. I just want to make myself feel good, and it helps. Trust me.
Awesome. You're right about the self-care Sunday. I did that for the first time this past Sunday. I didn't look at any social media, even though I needed to promote this and everything. I was like, I'm not gonna look at social media. At first, I was kind of like, but then by the end of the day, I was like, oh, this is kind of good to unplug a minute. So yeah, I'm totally there with you. DeAndre, you were gonna say?
Yeah, I was just one thing I realized that a little bit of self-care every day will keep you pushing and keep you more determined and keep you more positive throughout that day. So if you can go ahead and take the first 10 minutes out of your day to to meditate or pray or read, or even take out 30 minutes to an hour a day to work out, to just get your blood flowing, like that definitely has been helping me throughout this pandemic, and is going to be some of the things that I continue to use throughout my career.
Thank you.
That's good. And meditate 10 minutes a day, right? If we can do everything else, we can take 10 minutes in the morning. It's, as you roll out the bed, just take 10 minutes. That's good. I wrote that down.
That's a very good one. Very good.
Carolyn?
So at the start of quarantine, I had like my screen time pop up and it was ridiculously high. So I decided to start implementing a screen time like timer on my phone. So from 5 to 7, pretty much all of the apps on my phone are locked. So it gives me time to just reflect. So a
Wow.
lot of times I'll go walking, or I know they said it earlier, but you find out things that you didn't know you could do. So I've actually started painting, and it's really relaxing and I enjoy it, and I focus on the painting and nothing else. So it's very
So that must be an
cool.
iPhone thing. Uh-oh, Telling left out. Is that an iPhone? You all y'all laughing because look now, I have
Yeah.
an iPhone for work. If I have an Android, I don't have a problem with that. But is it that an iPhone thing you can go to sleep? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Okay. Just asking, Kayla.
Something I think that we should bring up that we haven't really talked too much is
Can you hear me, Kayla?
Oh, sorry. That we haven't talked too much on is how like COVID has impacted mental health as far as quarantine.
Yes.
As somebody who deals with anxiety, being at home all day and having to stay at home was a struggle. Normally I'll be able to find something to do every day, leave the house, do different things to keep me busy and occupied. But like with quarantine, that really was something I had to like find new coping mechanisms. So for my self-care, I'll typically like work out or try to get like fresh air, things like that, and just take care of myself. Like I heard somebody else say, like painting your nails, things like that. And I disconnect from social media and from the news. So I do all those type of things, like just decompress, take some time, like just relax. Because with everything going on in the world right now, it really does get stressful. So just take some time to think about the positives and plan for a positive future.
Good point, Kayla. Good
That's
point.
good, Kayla.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember early on in March, we were literally watching CNN like it was on all day, every day. And then we finally just said, we got to unplug. Like, we'll catch up because I'm sure it will be the same thing when we turn it on. But we were in the beginning, we were like trying to figure out, we're going back to school, what's going on, how many cases? And it was a lot. It was overwhelming. And then trying to deal with your work and your children being in school, it was a lot. So having to unplug. And so and then also we had adults that were having anxiety, right?
Yes.
And so I was thinking that my extra fine, but it were my outgoing, friends or staff or members that were outgoing, that were struggling because they were used to being the life of the party and being around people. And I didn't realize that. And I had to kind of pause and make sure I was checking on those people. So I'm glad you shared that, Kayla. Michael, what do you have? What do you do for self-care?
Well, I've actually really caught up with my guitar. I played a good bit in my like preteen years, and I kind of put it down because I started focusing on other extracurriculars. But I started to get back into it senior year, and now like because of quarantine, I got a lot more time to be able to just practice and things like that. So I've been doing a lot of self-teaching, learning popular songs that I like. And I have like a pretty strong passion for it now. Like I'm like loving guitar. I'm thinking about I play acoustic, but I'm pretty sure soon I'm gonna end up getting an electric, and I'm also planning on getting ukulele and learning that. And
I know your parents are so excited.
yeah, something like that. And also when it comes to the screen time and things like that, I completely deleted Instagram and Snapchat, and it's been pretty great. It's been pretty good.
Wow.
I re-download Instagram sometimes to check my DMs just because people message me to ask questions about the stuff going on, because I've been really outspoken about that. But besides that, it's been pretty cool, like not worrying about what everybody's doing, what people are posting, who's where, who's doing what. And and it's given me a lot of time to just focus on finishing my book. So yeah, guitar, book writing, no Instagram, Snapchat, it's all cool.
So
awesome. And I like that. Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
So based on what I'm hearing everyone say and what I heard Kayla say, we have to make sure that we are really in tune with our social emotional state. So what is it that any of you guys can say to encourage others that are watching all across the United States? What can you say to not only encourage your peers during this difficult time, but to encourage Principal Kirk and my peers as well? Give us a word of encouragement. We need that.
would say from a spiritual standpoint, everything happens for a reason. God has if you believe in God, he does everything for a reason. So we're eventually gonna see the light in such darkness that we're living in. So just be strong and hold on tight and have faith, even if it's the size of a mustard seed.
Yes.
Because eventually we're
Yes.
going to see the light that we're looking for in all aspects, health, racism, everything.
Thank you.
All
Anyone
right,
else?
Leah. That mustard seed, that faith is important. Having that faith is important. Absolutely. Terrellyn?
I was going to say that it's also important to just remain positive and know that what your goals are. I heard all of you have such like amazing majors and aspirations. So just continue to strive for those and push your peers, because a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm not going to return to school in the fall because it's virtual. Like, tell them, no, keep pushing, keep striving, because we need to all make a change. And this is only 12 of us. There's thousands and thousands of more of us that need to keep pushing. So just pat your friend on the back and tell them that we'll get over this and that their goals in the end are way better than what we're in right now.
Yes.
Awesome.
Wow.
Who has not shared their self-care? I want to make sure everybody does a self-care before they get off. Okay, DeAndre, and then Caleb, and then Miguel.
Oh, I went. It's Caleb.
Oh, Caleb. Caleb, I'm sorry. Caleb?
Yeah, I like to work out if I'm not either working. If I'm working out, or I like to also I play video games. So I think that's a great way to relax my mind and keep me as one. So between working out and gaming, or fishing, I actually have me, my dad, and my brother. We take a lot of fishing trips. So it's a great way to bond and just to get out the house and go on an adventure sometimes.
Right, connect with nature. Very good, Caleb. Thank you. A couple of, you have a lot of comments in here, so you all have to go back and look at all these comments, but you have some shout outs. Great job, Terrellyn Matthews, for staying mentally and physically prepared. Yes, mental health is real and has to be addressed. Caleb on mental awareness, hearts. These young adults have bright futures, excellent panel and self-care ideas. Yes, Kayla, mental health is important for staff and students. To my colleagues, if we could make them an admin team in a school with all the matters that addresses all based on their perspective, skill and will, they'd be dynamic. Yes. Ronald is not here, but his mom put in for him. Yes, stay informed the latest COVID. And she said, Ronald keeps busy with summer classes and internship interviews, along with maintaining a workout routine. So yeah, absolutely. Miguel, you want to share with us your self-care tips?
Yes, for self-care, I usually go outside and play with my little brother. We play soccer. Sometimes we play as a family. So my mom, my dad, my sister. It's really fun being active. It clears your mind. It helps us bond even more. We also play like cards and stuff like Uno. So just spending more time with family and staying active is pretty much what we do.
Awesome.
Yes.
And the activity is good because that's a good way of staying active, because you have to start from the inside and work your way out, right? So that exercising, however you get it in, whether it's, soccer, football, running, walking, exercising,
bicycle,
it's important. Getting that heart rate up is really important. So that's good. Eating healthy, changing our eating habits. I'm a big proponent of alkaline water, just saying. Alkaline water. How I feel about my alkaline water.
We knew you would say that. We knew that.
And then amazing words of encouragement, Terrellyn Matthews. Keep pushing and be encouraged. And then Lolita Claire Butler, preach. Old folks need words of encouragement too.
That's right.
#light, #faith, #journey, #family matters. Very good. And then Michael, keep us posted on your book. I would love to purchase a copy.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Did everyone get to share self-care? Dr. Stevens, what's your self-care? Other than, we know you run marathon, or you were running marathons. I know you missed your marathon.
I still run. One of my self-care would be to actually just work out. I work out daily. I do some form of activity, but also I have an accountability group. And what happens is that if I catch myself not working out or not posting and sending a message, someone will reach out to me and say, hey, you got to get that body moving today. So my self-care is just running, being outside, and just sitting and just having the opportunity just to kind of meditate And but that's my self-care, and I have to do it consistently because I realize that if I do not get what I need for myself, I cannot help others. And so that's why it's important. What's your self-care? What's your self-care, Captain?
So one of my things is drinking more water. That's one.
Okay.
I also have been doing a much better job of disconnecting from school, like my job work when I come home. I have other things I want to, and so even though I'm still, it seems like I'm still working, but I'm working at home on things that I'm passionate about. That has to do with building me, whether it's going to conferences or building or reading books that aren't necessarily work related, but more something to fill my cup as a person. So I've been doing a lot of those things. Definitely spending more time with family. And so, but I'm a work in progress because there's a lot of things I need to be doing and I want to do more of. But you know, this right here, although it doesn't seem like, it seems like work, having panels like this is self-care to me because I feel like, you know, I come from a family that we were really encouraged, and it was expectation that we give back. And this is my way of giving back, right? If I can help other people, whether it be, you know, baby boomers or Generation Z, Generation X, whichever generation, then I feel I fulfill my cup. And so that's the only reason why, or one of the reasons why I do these Facebook Lives, because I know, and it's always happened every time someone gets touched, right? Someone gets a message from someone. And as I said, from the mouths of babes or whatever you want to say, this panel today had some really good advice and very encouraging words and things for us to take back, even for me as an administrator, when I'm thinking about my own students and their needs. So I wanted to say thank you all for being such a dynamic group, and that sentiment is shared with the audience because you all have to go back and look at the comments. You all did a phenomenal job, and I'm just so, let me say a special shout out to the parents, first of all.
Yes.
The caregivers and the guardians, because you all did a phenomenal job. You all did a phenomenal job, parents, and you should be very proud, as I know you are, because I see some of your parents on making comments on here. And you should be proud. And that's one of the things as a parent, you know, the most proud thing, you know, we know you have to leave us at some point, but when we get to see you doing your own thing and we get to see what we poured into you and you're living in your walk and your purpose, we know that we've done it, because we don't know, you don't come with the manual, you do know that, right? So you don't come with the manual, we do the best that we know how, and we may not get it right all the time, but you all know how to, you know, and we don't want you to necessarily do just exactly what we said. We just want you to use what we poured into you to make those future decisions. And so I'm so extremely proud of you. I mean, like I said, you come out of my womb, but I feel like a proud auntie. I'll just say auntie. I won't take mom. I'll take an auntie. I won't. I feel like a proud aunt. So I want to say thank you, Dr. Stevens. Do you have some things?
I'm just so proud. You guys have just really been a blessing to us. And it's just the opportunity just to see and to hear your perspective is just really eye-opening. We're not surprised, and I know, and we see the boldness that you guys have. The part that is so exciting for me is that when you see something, Generation Z, you do not just sit there and watch it. You sit there and you jump in and you take the lead on it. And those things are organizing protests and writing books and those things like that. Principal Kirk, I am just amazed at the great things that you guys are doing. So continue to do that. And just know you're not the future, you are the present, and you're making it happen. And it's an honor just to have this opportunity to talk to you now. Michael, let me go ahead on and get ready so I can get your autograph, because we know that book is going to be amazing. And all I can say is I'm just so excited, admire you guys. You guys, parents should be so, so proud of you. And there are some that principals are watching you as well. And as a principal, we're
as your former principals,
we're so proud.
And just know we would love to have you guys back and talk to you, you know, after we get through this or get a little bit more into the school year, and just checking in with you guys and see how everything is going, how your school opened, if anything's changed, if, you know, hopefully from this conversation, something you receive some kind of the golden nugget as well. So we would love to have you guys back and talk to you guys about, you know, what has transpired in your lives, whether it be the middle of the year or end of the year, and to see how that first year went. So we just wish you the best of luck. please stay in touch. I've already told you guys when we, and there's no audience, you know, there's some of us, we know some of them on here, some we don't, but when we met them, it's like we didn't know them. And so that's the beauty. That's how you know you have a great panel, when you're having conversations as if you've known them forever. But again, I want to say thank you. I want to say a special thank you to Dr. Stevens for co-hosting this with me today. You did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you. And again, thank you guys for being present. We know you could have been doing something else this evening. Thank you to the rain for not going completely out, taking us completely out this evening. And that's, like you said, that mustard seed, Kalia. Yep, you got to have a little bit of faith that it's going to come on through. So again, I'm Principal Captain Kirk. This is Women in School Leadership. And this is our Generation Z through our eyes. And that they definitely brought it to home. And we definitely got to see through their eyes how they felt about the uncivil unrest, about the COVID-19 pandemic, and how they practice self-care. So if you have family members or friends who did not get to see this evening, it will be on Facebook. So please share and view. If you want to go back and look at some things because you might have missed something, please go back and please make sure you share in your support. If you really got something out of this, then I challenge you to share this with some families and friends, or even young adults that could need to really hear. And let me just say, and I don't have a problem of being very transparent. I was very intentional, Dr. Stevens and I, in selecting this panel. If you notice, these are a panel a member, young adults, Black and Brown young adults. And I felt it was very, and Dr. Stevens, I felt it was very important for us to highlight the great things that are happening with our young adults. This is our future. We don't pour into our future. And I'm talking to the adults now, talking to the educators, teachers, administrators. This is what we want ultimately. And so it's not just about reading, math, writing, science, social studies. Those are important. But we have to infuse culturally responsive teaching in our classrooms. Obviously, these young adults had in their classrooms or at home, whichever way they got it, or in their colleges and universities. But it's so important for us to be very, very intentional about being culturally responsive to our students, so that we can have students who are critical thinkers, like our panel members, who are resilient and brave and courageous, so that they can go out and be impactful, because ultimately they are the ones who are going to be taking care of us. And so again, we want to make sure we're pouring to them and not forgetting our elders, and making sure we're also, I would say to you guys, make sure that you are looking back as well, and that you are getting advice from your elders, because there's some key things that they can lend themselves to making sure that your journey is a little less challenging. And so although sometimes it feels like you probably at some point or another said, you know what, my mom or my dad said that, or my grandmother or someone, or you were in the middle of something, you can hear their voice and you like, think that this was going to happen. And you were able to use that tool. So I'm just going to encourage you to do that. But again, thank you. We're over our time. It's 8:29, but I wanted to get it in. I wanted you all to get those golden nuggets in. So thank you guys. Facebook family, thank you as always for supporting Principal Captain Kirk in this platform. We have some fantastic other sessions coming up this month. We have our illustrious leaders coming back that you saw in March, and I have a special guest, my father, Dr. J.A. Hood, who's going to be giving us some golden nuggets as well, some food for thought to fill our souls. So I look forward to seeing you guys soon, and have a great evening. Panel members, you stay on and we're going to disconnect. Anyone want to say anything else before we leave? Anything else? Yes, Kayla.
Just one thing I wanted to leave like on a more positive note for all the viewers. A lot of dark things are happening right now, but I think that we should be grateful and hopeful about the light that's being shed on a lot of the problems in this country, whether it's like medical injustices, how colored people are contracting COVID at a higher rate, or social injustices. And I just think we should be hopeful, and hopefully like that we're moving forward to a better community and a better world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kayla. Absolutely.
Yes.
Positivity. It's about mindset, right, Kayla? It's about mindset. Yes. And so that's something that's also, has to be fully encouraged. It's about looking at the glass half full as opposed to half empty. So thank you for that. And I think that's a great way to leave us off. All right, thank you, Facebook family. We are going to be out. I know you want us to keep going, but I got to get them in the bed because they're tired. All right, so Facebook family, thank you so much. You all stay here and we're gonna say bye to them. All right, say bye guys to the Facebook
Bye.
family.